Councillor Guthrie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The debate over how best to protect our climate is not a new one. It's an argument that gained momentum in the latter half of the previous century and has since exploded onto the world stage. It will not come as a surprise to Labour to hear that I do not support their motion, but perhaps it's prudent, Mr. Mayor, when dealing with what has become such an emotive topic, that I first address to Labour what I can agree with them on. Climate change is real. It is a problem. It is something humanity has contributed to and has the capacity to address. Phrases like crisis or catastrophe to describe climate change are often accompanied by predictions that unfortunately scare entire groups of people into accepting a particular narrative, that the human race is on its way to assured environmental destruction of its own making. Since the 1960s, Mr. Mayor, the world has witnessed predictions of environmental apocalypse that never came to pass, such as that of Paul Ehrlich in his book, The Population Bomb, where he said that the 1970s and 1980s would play host to famine on a worldwide scale due to environmental factors. Even the United Nations is not impervious to this dire way of thinking. The first director of their environment program said that humanity had only 10 years before all hope was lost. That prediction was made in 1972, Mr. Mayor, but society continues to function and to flourish. It is unfortunate to say that this is an argument that has become dominated by well-meaning but misguided, fraught emotion rather than the findings of informed scientific investigation and economic consideration, with many facets of what is a complex, multi-layered issue being seemingly discounted for no good reason. The efforts of Bjorn Lomborg, president of the Copenhagen Consensus think tank, and William Nordhaus, winner of the 2018 Nobel Prize in Economic Sciences for his work in climate economics, showed different ways of dealing with climate change. Even the work of the United Nations Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change is not as one-sided as many have made it out to be. Plenty have cited the panel's reports pointing out an increase in extreme warm weather, a perfectly valid observation. But very few say anything about their comments of a decrease in extreme cold weather. According to a recent study published in The Lancet, 500,000 people tragically die annually from extreme heat, but 4.5 million are taken annually by extreme cold. The Lancet study concluded, Mr. Mayor, that total deaths from extreme weather, both warm and cold, have actually decreased over the past 2 decades. Surely, as responsible policymakers that we are, we cannot ignore facts such as these when it comes to constructing solutions to this issue. Climate policy is important, Mr. Mayor, and it is only right that we do what we can to ensure we are ready to deal with its worst effects. But how could we possibly look our residents in the eye and tell them the best way we can do that is to cloud their prospects for financial stability and scare them with chronicles of calamity? Our city's economy must be allowed to thrive. One of the best ways to address climate change and the natural events that it may or may not cause is to ensure we adapt to meet them. The flood defence package that we voted on here today is an example of that. No doubt the money being spent on putting those defences into place will ensure homes and businesses around the city and beyond are safe and viable for the future. With discourse having become so unfortunately twisted over time, there is so much more to be said on this subject, Mr. Mayor, but I will finish with this. Labour cannot expect to solve any climate crisis when we all need to first work to cure climate cacophony.